President Lai signs off on TSMC's surprise $100 billion investment plan to expand its U.S. chip-making footprint.
每一次的台积电的布局，台积电都更因而壮大。
TSMC's massive announced investment in the U.S. has sparked debate here in Taiwan. I spoke to some locals here in the county where the chip giant is headquartered to see what they think.
The Philippines takes a stand against Chinese incursions into the airspace above the disputed South China Sea. Plus, a Hong Kong singer bridges the gap between traditional and modern, performing Cantonese opera and Japanese pop. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Laurel Stewart. We begin today with some breaking news. Taiwan President Lai Ching-te is supporting chip giant TSMC's unprecedented $100 billion investment in the United States. It's the single largest foreign direct investment in US history. Lai spoke alongside TSMC Chair C.C. Wei at the presidential office, where reporter Chris Gorin now joins us live. Chris, what exactly did Lai say?
Well, I think President Lai wanted to make one thing very clear, which is that Taiwan supports and will not stand in the way of TSMC's massive investment into the United States. And those sentiments were largely echoed by TSMC Chair C.C. Wei, who actually gave the majority of the comments at this press conference. You know, he really emphasized that the goal behind this new investment was simply to service its largest customers in the United States, and that this is also the first time that President Lai has actually spoken publicly about these new investments in the United States since they were announced at the White House 2 days ago. Now, just to remind our viewers, what was announced 2 days ago was an additional $100 billion of investment in the United States, and that's in addition to the $65 billion that had already been announced a few years ago, and that will be for a total of 6 advanced chip factories, 2 advanced packaging centers, and 1 R&D center in the U.S. state of Arizona. Now, that's 6 factories in addition to the 3 that had already been planned there. Now, this announcement also comes despite the fact that Donald Trump recently stated that he would seek to repeal the U.S. CHIPS Act. Now, that act would actually provide more than $11 billion in subsidies and low-interest loans to TSMC to build their Arizona facilities. And TSMC Chair C.C. Wei was actually asked about that in the press conference, and here's what he had to say.
我们不是因为补助才去的，我讲的一个最重要的，我们是因为客户的需求，所以台积电能够成功，都是因为我们跟客户互相的配合。
政府在台积电赴美的投资的过程当中，并没有接受到来自美国的压力，并没有。
Now, you can hear in that last bite from President Lai that he is trying to assure people that this newly announced investment did not come from any pressure on the United States side, on TSMC or on Taiwan. And, you know, I think he's trying to reassure people about that because since President Trump has taken office, he's been using all of America's economic pressure to try and get economic concessions from partner countries all across the world. But, you know, here today, both Wei and Lai seem to be using language that was much more friendly, calling this a watershed moment in Taiwan and U.S. relations, and saying that this is going to be the new way forward. I think, you know, as far as TSMC is concerned, they just really wanted to emphasize that this was nothing more than a business decision to try and help out, you know, their most important customer.
Thanks for that update, Chris. That was Chris Gorin reporting live from the presidential office. Opinions are split over TSMC's massive investment plan. The surprise announcement is hitting at fears that Taiwan is giving up a strategic advantage without getting anything in return. Joyce Zhang reports.
Thank you very much.
Days after TSMC CEO and chair C.C. Wei appeared at the White House with U.S. President Donald Trump, announcing a historic investment of an additional $100 billion in the state of Arizona, widespread debate in Taiwan, whether the move hurts or helps the country's ties with its largest international partner, especially in a changing world order under Trump. In Hsinchu, the county where the chip giant is headquartered, opinions are split.
技术还是要留在台湾啊，最好尽量不要再留给美国。
或许有一些友好的成分在，或是有一些资金技术的移入，那美国那边也可能在中美国关系上会对台湾好一点。
台湾政府没有利益，人家加拿大好歹也跟他喊，你加我25，我也给你加25，对不对？那你做不到。 那台湾政府是像孙子一样，
可是他会做这样的决定，我觉得他们自己魏哲家也说过嘛，他花了很多的人力物力，包含金钱。其实美国是最难的，但是为什么还要做？我觉得一定是有一些不得不的考量。
Without official diplomatic ties with most countries, including the United States, Taiwan has largely looked to private sector leaders like TSMC. Many people in the country see the chipmaker's dominance in the industry as a source of protection, a so-called silicon shield, even against existential threats like a Chinese invasion. TSMC plans to build 3 more chip fabs, 2 advanced packaging facilities, and an R&D center in the U.S., adding to heated political debate between Taiwan's main opposition party and President Lai Ching-te's administration.
台湾失去了生产基地，台湾失去了研发中心。更严重的是，有多少重要的人才 即将赴美，政府为什么没有站在前面，躲在后面，让台积电自己去面对这样的风口浪尖？
Meanwhile, Taiwan's foreign minister Lin Jialong is working to quell fears.
那我们现在要思考的是，怎么样美国伟大，台湾也伟大，创造双赢啊！这个就是我们外交上面那现在很重要的一个目标。可是你会发现说，有一些人他们就会把它讲成说是。 好像啊，我们这个台积电被美积电啊，那我想台积电他们应该也会对外有所说明，怎么样能够技术深耕台湾，产线布局全球。
This year, TSMC is gearing up to mass produce 2 nanometer nodes in Taiwan, a level of advanced chip that will only reach the U.S. in at least 3 years, a window of time that will see chip tech become even more sophisticated. More than the technology, replicating TSMC's success here in Taiwan will also come down to the company's notoriously tough work culture, a tone set here at its headquarters. But beyond what this means for TSMC and its business, for Taiwan, the question that's still unanswered is what it can get in return from the U.S., especially when goodwill is not enough. Justin Wu and Joyce Sun in Hsinchu Science Park for TaiwanPlus.
The Philippines Defense Secretary says Manila and its allies will counter any attempt by China to impose an air defense zone over the disputed South China Sea.
The Philippines will take a combination of measures, singularly and with like-minded nations, to counteract these activities of China. Naturally, we cannot discuss the specific moves, but then again, that is a very serious transgression of international law, which will demand a response.
Gilberto Teodoro says defense officials have been discussing the possibility that China may try to restrict aircraft over the strategic waterway that China claims almost in its entirety. Tensions between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea have been ramping up over the last 2 years. This comes amid recent confrontations between Chinese aircraft and those from the Philippines, Australia, and the US. In South Korea, at least 15 people have been injured after an Air Force jet mistakenly dropped 8 bombs in a civilian area. Several houses and a church were damaged in Pochen near the border with North Korea. Local authorities say 2 people are seriously hurt. It happened during joint live-fire drills between South Korea and the US. Chinese hackers targeted governments, businesses and journalists in the US and other countries in exchange for millions of dollars. That's according to a public indictment in the US Justice Department. The US has charged 12 Chinese intelligence officers and hackers, saying they gained access to foreign ministry email accounts across Asia, including Taiwan. That information was then sold to the Chinese government for tens of thousands of US dollars per account. In response, Taiwan's foreign ministry said Chinese cyber attacks are nothing new, and they have set up a security center to monitor and prevent future hacks. China's top leaders are gathering in Beijing this week for their annual Two Sessions meeting. It's when the Chinese Communist Party lays out key plans, economic targets, military budgets, and major policy changes. To unpack what China's planning for 2025 and beyond, Adil Bra spoke to Neil Thomas, a fellow at the Asia Society Policy Institute.
Chinese Premier Li Qiang presented the government work report at the Two Sessions meeting. What have we learned from the report?
I think we've learned that there's been little change to Xi Jinping's power at the center of the party in terms of his ability to control the levers of authoritarian power at the very top. But we have seen a turn towards a somewhat more pro-growth economic policy, as well as some moves to encourage consumption and support the private sector. And I think this indicates a degree of pragmatism within Xi's broader political ideology. I mean, he has these long-term goals to achieve China's national rejuvenation, to make China a leading power, to make it at the forefront of technological innovation and economic might. But at the same time, to achieve these long-term goals, you need to be maintaining economic growth in the near term.
Are there any signs coming out of the Two Sessions meeting that the Chinese leader Xi Jinping could make way for a successor in the near future?
Xi Jinping will be looking at his colleagues and looking at how competent they are at achieving the goals he sets. And that does include these goals for the economy, for technology, that are the focus of Two Sessions discussions. So, it's certainly an occasion that has a big profile. And so the ability of people like Li Qiang to do a good job and to show that they are faithful and worthy implementers of Xi's vision could certainly help them in these longer term considerations that Xi might have about what comes next.
What signal is Beijing sending to Washington regarding the broader US-China relations as President Donald Trump's tariffs go into effect?
We've learned that China is keeping some of its fiscal firepower in reserve in case of further escalation in the US-China trade and technology war. So we did get more fiscal stimulus. We got 1.3 trillion yuan in ultra-long special treasury bonds being issued. That's more than last year. It was 1 trillion RMB, but it's significantly less than analyst expectations, which were focused on about a $2 trillion number up to about 3 trillion. So that's a slight underperformance compared to expectations. And I believe the reason for that is to ensure that there's room to respond quickly and with strong positive signals for if there is a US-China escalation later this year.
That was Neil Thomas from the Asia Society Policy Institute. Coming up after the break.
This is Taiwan's de facto embassy here in the United States. But did you know Taiwan's 2 major political parties also run offices here in Washington, D.C.? We're here to meet them.
Game on Taiwan. The wait is over. Baseball returns as the CPBL kicks off its new season, expecting high-energy plays and fierce rivalries on the diamond.
这球打进一个苦传，击正爱一球出现，跑回来。
The UBA and HBL basketball tournaments are heading to their epic final showdown, where the best teams fight for ultimate victory.
又选择外围的3分球。
And the excitement doesn't stop there. Tour de Taiwan is here, with the world's top cyclists pushing their limits through Taiwan's breathtaking landscapes. This month, your heroes give it all. Game on Taiwan. The action starts here.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. While Taiwan has a de facto embassy in the United States, Taiwan's two biggest political parties, the DPP and the KMT, also maintain a presence in the US capital. But what do they do, and why does Taiwan need them? Leslie Liao went to Washington, D.C. to find out.
Shouting matches, thrown objects, and all-out brawls. Common sights in Taiwan's legislature between the country's two biggest political parties, the Democratic Progressive Party and the Kuomintang. The two sides often at odds over everything from ideology to policy. On foreign policy, though, the two parties take a similar approach. Without formal diplomatic ties, Taipei and Washington's relations are facilitated through the country's de facto embassy in the United States. And hoping to forge closer ties with their American allies, both the DPP and KMT also operate separate missions in Washington.
We're here to have a regular contact with different circles in Washington, D.C., including the U.S. government, Congress, the academic circles, and also our diaspora communities.
Retired Ambassador Victor Qin is the Kuomintang's representative in Washington. He's been in the U.S. for nearly 2 years now, helping re-establish the KMT's presence in the U.S. Capitol after the party's previous liaison office shut down in 2008.
I really worry about Taiwan, especially after the tensions arises in the Taiwan Strait. And I think I can play a part in making sure that the American friends understand our situation, understand our needs.
At a time when China's ramping up its threats against Taiwan, Qing says he's fighting the perception that his party capitulates to Beijing.
If you look deep down into the situation, you realize that KMT is not only not pro-China, it's actually the party that started this democratization process in Taiwan that brought democracy to Taiwan. It is not pro-China at all.
And despite their differences, Qin says partisan fighting doesn't make it to the U.S. And the KMT and DPP can work together in Washington to represent the best of Taiwan.
We don't have to be arguing, fighting all the way. And I know, especially in Washington, D.C., we're representing major political parties of Taiwan. And we don't want our American friends to see us fighting all the time.
So now that we've met with the KMT here in D.C., we're going to head down the road to meet with the DPP.
Just a mile away, Iris Xiao heads the DPP mission in Washington.
The mission of DPP mission is simple. We invest, we align, we compete. Diplomat, because diplomats come and go every couple of years. But we were here, we have, for 11 years now, we have institutional memories.
While Taiwan's representative office carries out the country's formal diplomatic policies, Xiao's able to get closer to D.C. policymakers.
We help people in this town, in the Washington's policy community, to understand what's going on in Taiwan. And, you know, because the domestic politics, given it's really foreign and difficult for people to understand, even they follow Taiwan closely.
Xiao says her job is also about fighting misperceptions about her party's relationship with China.
We are also facing a growingly competitive war on narratives. In this town, the long conventional wisdom of DPP as provocateur for cross-strait relations.
Nothing separates the KMT and DPP more than their views on China. But when it comes to representing Taiwan in Washington, Xiao and her counterpart both agree. It's all about putting their best foot forward.
I was put on the same panel with my counterpart, KMT counterpart, a couple of times. We don't engage in friendly fire.
Both parties say they're doing what's best for Taiwan. Back home, it might seem like whenever one party comes up heads, the other is obligated to go tails. But here in D.C., the KMT and DPP are two sides of the same coin. Leon Lien, Laurel Stewart, and Leslie Liao in Washington, D.C. for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's Nuclear Safety Commission is calling for an investigation into what caused a fire at a nuclear power plant in the country's south on Thursday. The fire broke out at a cooling tower at the Ma'anshan facility in Pingdong County. Firefighters put it out shortly after it started. Officials have confirmed there's no risk of radiation leaks and no one was injured. Women's rights activists say that discrimination in Taiwan is still rampant despite changes made to gender equality laws. The amendments carry harsher penalties for bosses and other people in positions of power who sexually harass workers, and they make employers responsible for taking action to prevent and address incidents. But activists say the process for reporting workplace harassment is still a major issue.
那被害人在反复向不同窗口重述这个性骚扰的过程当中，事实上加重了他们的心理创伤跟焦虑感。
Saturday marks 1 year since the gender equality laws were amended. US President Donald Trump has agreed to give American car makers a break from his 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods. The 1-month pause comes after Trump had a call with the CEOs of car companies, including General Motors. They wanted an exception to the tariffs because their supply chains mean car parts cross borders several times during the manufacturing process. Helping keep a traditional art form alive, one Hong Kong performer is bringing a modern touch to Cantonese opera, hoping to attract a new legion of fans. Cadence Granta reports.
Both a J-pop idol and a Cantonese opera singer, Hong Konger Rika Wu lives something of a double life.
我都希望成為兩個文化中間嘅橋梁，咁咧等啲人可以欣賞到傳統文化嘅美啦，又可以咧嘗試接觸到 pop culture 嘅。
Wu is part of a J-pop group, which formed in 2017 and performs in Hong Kong. Often upbeat pop music that attracts younger fans. At the same time, she can transform into a much more traditional kind of artist.
當我成為咗偶像之後，我就愛上咗舞台，因為我覺得咧喺舞台上面嘅我咧就係好實際存在，我好中意呢一個好揾到自己價值嘅感覺。咁所以咧我就覺得粵劇咧可以又有唱歌啦，又有跳舞啦，又有做戲啦，又有武術啦，咁全部都係我想學嘅嘢嚟嘅。
Cantonese opera dates back centuries, some say to China's Song dynasty, influenced by many different styles of Chinese opera. Actors apply elaborate makeup to help audience members read their expressions, performing stories often set in historical times. The art form soared to popularity in Hong Kong, where Cantonese is spoken, in the 1950s and 60s. But since then, it's been in decline. Still, Wu decided to pursue it, inspired by her grandfather, who worked on opera sets.
加上佢係一個好源遠流長嘅中國傳統藝術，咁所以咧我就揀咗學粵劇，咁就可以令到等我第時譬如冇再做 idol 啦，我都可以繼續作為一個粵劇演員咁樣去留喺舞台上面。
Now she's introducing her younger fans to the art form, helping to keep it alive, with many following along on her journey.
咁我最初係由睇佢嗰啲訪問，跟住就再睇佢表演，覺得佢表演又係好 charm 啦，好穩定。咁唔單止係idol 嘅表演啦，再加埋粵劇嘅表演啦，咁各方面我覺得佢都好好咯。
Embracing both modern music and ancient art forms, Wu is straddling two worlds, old and new, advancing pop culture while keeping tradition alive. Fu Hua Hong and Cadence Karanta for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, join us in London for this 14th century art exhibition showcasing paintings from the Italian city of Siena. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care and see you next time.